Football is a game of matchups. That's why there are so many comparisons between football and chess as opposed to checkers. Every player has his own strengths and weaknesses, the ways that he can move, and other players simply cannot. And in light of this, as the Denver Broncos are one of the hottest teams in the NFL with an 8-2 record, we have to start to ask ourselves, as the lowly 5-4 Kansas City Chiefs, what chance do they have, right? Well, I'm being facetious for a reason. The Broncos have certainly won their fair share of games. I don't mean to take anything from them, but they have not played the murderer's row of opponents that have the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's possible that what we're looking at is simply a record that is inflated by a little bit of weaker competition. Look, you can only play who's on the schedule, so Denver does not have to apologize for that. But at the same time, are they as battle-hardened and tested as are the Kansas City Chiefs? Well, I think that there is one matchup in particular that could help the Kansas City Chiefs actually pull this victory off and get back into the driver's seat for their postseason hopes. That is right here. Jaquan McMillan. Now, you're not looking at Jaquan McMillan. You're looking at a scene from Waterboy. So this is Jaquan McMillan, and this is Patrick Mahomes. If you get the reference, you get the reference. But what am I talking about here? Well, here's Jaquan McMillan. He has played in 10 games this season at cornerback for the Broncos, but he's really their nickelback. He has played 452 snaps this season. I should have gotten that number, but I forgot to do so. Played in 10 games, has 2 starts on the year, has been targeted 46 times and given up 26 completions. And, 56.5% is a respectable number for your percentage of passes let up. 238 yards is really kind of a decent number there as well. And having given up a 78.0 rating when targeted, he's having the best full-time season of his young career. Now, why do I bring up Jaquan McMillan? Well, the Denver Broncos defense has been very, very good this year. And their cornerbacks, Pat Surtain and Riley Moss, have been pretty good along the way as well. That passing defense for the Broncos has been really a strong suit for them. So, you don't imagine that the Chiefs are going to come into this game and not throw the ball, do you? I do. And I don't think Patrick Mahomes is really going to care what the cornerback's name is against whom he is throwing the ball. But Riley Moss and Pat Surtain are both really, not just really good corners, they're both guys who can move pretty well. They're both guys who have, Pat Surtain has great size. Moss, I think, is more of an average-sized cornerback. And the speed element is there for both of them as well. But if we're here on Jaquan McMillan, this is the type of season he's having according to PFF, a 69.0 overall grade. That's pretty good stuff, right? That is a starting level corner type of number. And then you have a pass rush grade of 89.7. He's got 2 sacks on the season, but that's really neither here nor there. 23 solo tackles on the season suggest that he's maybe giving up some receptions, but he's not letting anyone completely get past him. A run defense grade of 73.0. Again, that Broncos defense, very good even against the run. And he has a 63.3 coverage grade. Now, notably, 63.3 is not a terrible number in any of these stats. But it is notable that a cornerback, his worst score is in pass coverage. So what are we looking at there? Well, we do have, I'm going to do it, guys. I'm going to go right back to the RAS scores. You know I'm going to do it. We have his RAS score here. A 3.6 total RAS score. At 5'9", almost 5'10", 181 pounds, he is undersized. With a 36.5-inch vert and a 10-foot broad jump, there is nothing to write home about there. And finally, a 40-yard dash of 4.59 scores 3.88 out of 10. Even more alarmingly, that 20-yard split right off the line is a 2.69, which scores 2.88. And even more dastardly than that, the 10-yard split is a 1.67, which is a 1 out of 10. A 1 out of 10. So, when you're talking about off-the-ball speed, not very good. When you're talking about height, not very good. Not the weight either, by the way. But then we have the arm length of 29 inches. Well, why do I bring up any of this? You know, the Chiefs have Xavier Worthy and the Chiefs have Rashee Rice. But who do the Chiefs have after that? A guy who has kind of disappeared so far this season. A guy who might be custom made for just such a matchup. A guy named Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton goes 6'2", 6'2.5", versus 5'9.5". Very, very much taller is Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton has 33 1/4 inch arms. Jaquan McMillan, 29-inch arms. So height and reach advantage there. Now, stunningly, Jaquan McMillan has a 36.5-inch vert. So too does Tyquan Thornton. The exact same vertical leap there. But the broad jump, the explosiveness there, 10 foot 10 inches for Tyquan Thornton, 10 foot flat for Jaquan McMillan. Now, they're not going to be out there on the field standing still and jumping forward side by side and holding hands, but it does tell you something about the explosiveness for these athletes. But here is where the butter could be breaded. The bread could be buttered, whatever the phrase is. 40-yard dash for Tyquan Thornton, 4.28 compared to 4.59. So, if there is an opportunity for Tyquan Thornton to run 40 full yards on the field, should he be covered by Jaquan McMillan, it is not going to go well. But it doesn't have to be a 40-yard sprint. That 2.69 20-yard split for Jaquan McMillan compared to a 2.46 2/10 of a second in 20 yards. But it gets worse than that. 1.67 10-yard split. 10-yard split is basically the stem of any route for a guy like Tyquan Thornton. He's going to be running down the field. Should he find himself matched up one-on-one with Jaquan McMillan, those first 10 yards, Jaquan McMillan can only cover 10 yards in 1.67 seconds versus Tyquan Thornton, 1.41. In 10 yards of space, Tyquan Thornton is 16/10 of a second faster than Jaquan McMillan. And this is all true, and it spells that Tyquan Thornton could be able to open up things downfield for the Kansas City Chiefs. He should be able to find himself matched up against Jaquan McMillan several times during this game, and he should be able to just run right past him and put his hand in the air like Randy Moss used to do. But they're not dumb out there in Denver. Well, Maybe they are. But the people in charge of the football team are not, as I trip all over my words. So they could automatically give Jaquan McMillan double team help against Tyquan Thornton should the opportunity arise. Well, one, that means that Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice are definitely going to be singled, and it means that Travis Kelce has an opportunity to be singled as well. But it's not really going to matter. Why do I say that? Well, if it is your strong safety, Talanoa Hufanga, that you are trying to cover, with whom you are trying to cover Tyquan Thornton, is not going to fare much better. A 4.64 40-yard dash, a 2.65 20-yard split, and a 1.63 10-yard split. So, 4.64 and 1.63 are the big ones. 4.64 is slower even than Jaquan McMillan. 1.63 is a little bit faster on the 10-yard split. So, like I said, the football is a game of matchups. It could be that Tyquan Thornton quite often finds himself on the field lined up right ahead of Jaquan McMillan in this game. And should that be the case, I fully expect Tyquan Thornton not to have any assignment other than seeing how far he can run and seeing how fast he can get there. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.